Hi, hello, how are you? Happy Monday. Welcome to this conversation about just why it is so difficult sometimes to really break a loop of stress, to break a pattern of the way that we think or the way that we're feeling. Like, why is it so hard? Why is our past so present in our future? What actually happens? So, as you're joining this, welcome. My name is Linda Downey. This is an episode of The Unconditioned Life. It's also just something that's being streamed right now on social media. And I would love for you to say hello and say where you're listening from if you're able to. This is streaming in 5 different places. And so I may not see your comment or your hello in the moment, but I will definitely go back and check everywhere that this is streaming, okay? Especially with topics like this that really so many people struggle with. Like, why am I stuck in my patterns or in my stress mode? Why does that happen? So I definitely want to answer your questions about that in conversations like this. So again, my name is Linda Downey, and this conversation is about why it is so difficult to break our patterns, whether it's thought patterns, whether it's our emotions that we feel stuck in, or whether it's just feeling like the past is always here in the present. Like, why is it so hard to shake the past and just live in the present moment, in the present day? So here's what happens when experiencing something. Okay, and your brain takes in the data. So our five senses are here to collect data and bring it into our brain. And when the brain sees that data and interprets it, it's going to send out like I'm going to say some nerves and proteins that end up forming an emotion. So emotions are actually chemicals that go through our body, and those chemicals are derived from how our brain is thinking. Okay, what the brain just interpreted. So if you were to see a car accident in front of you, or you're in an argument in your household, or you got an upsetting email, whatever it is, your brain takes in that data, and then the thoughts that you're having about it, like, oh no, this is so terrible, or why is that person mad at me? This is what always happens in our relationship, whatever it is. Those thoughts will start the body producing chemicals. The chemicals are actually emotions, okay? The emotions that you're feeling have a chemical consequence in the body, a chemical pathway, okay? Now, that chemical pathway that you're feeling in response to a stressful situation is also going to tell your nervous system, take a picture of this and remember this. Remember this because this is causing a problem. So, the bigger the emotional response, the more profound the picture that your nervous system takes. The picture that your nervous system takes is your memory. So you'll have a memory of what just happened. So the memory, which is imprinted in your brain, is matched up to certain chemicals, which are your emotions. And together, those get stored in the body. So it's actually like an imprint, like somebody takes a stamp and stamps onto your nervous system. In your brain, they stamp a physical image, a memory. And in your body, in the biochemistry of your body, is a certain particular chemical soup that's floating around in your body. Okay? So that's what happens. Now, as I said, the stronger the emotion, so if you're really upset, if you really get scared, the more impactful that imprint is on your nervous system, and the more those chemicals get produced. So if, something happens and there's multiple emotions like feeling rejected and sad and angry and worried, right? Those are all different emotions, but they're all sort of similar, and they each have their own chemical blueprint. But now that soup, that recipe is floating around in your body. Okay. So now why do we get stuck there? Which was really my intent for this conversation, is that your subconscious, that's actually the data bank where this all gets stored. So that memory image, right? The picture image is in your subconscious. The emotions, that chemical soup, also gets stored in your body in the subconscious. So a lot of people even say the subconscious mind is the body. The body holds that information, the actual chemistry of the emotion, the actual imprint on your nervous system is stored in your physical body. Okay? So that's your subconscious mind. So the subconscious job, when we're out in our day, we are using our conscious mind, and mostly we're just like, okay, am I going to turn right here? What am I going to make for dinner? Who do I need to call back? Should I go for that job interview? Those are your conscious thoughts, right? That's like you're just what you're dealing with in the moment. But your subconscious has this whole data bank stored, images and memories from every single thing that ever happened to you, every single word that was spoken to you, every thought that you ever had is stored in that data bank, along with the coordinating emotions in your physical body, in your nervous system. And the job of the subconscious is to keep you safe. So that's where your ego lives, and the ego's job is to keep you safe, right? Like, no, 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 don't do that. It's not okay. Nope, you're gonna fail there. Don't do that. No, don't go over here, right? Your ego's job is to keep you in safety. And the subconscious is saying, okay, it's kind of like a GPS system. It's like navigating through your data bank and remembering what happened in order to keep you safe so you don't go through it again. So for instance, if it's a memory and you're not having it consciously, your conscious brain is only figuring out the things you need to consciously deal with right now. But your subconscious brain, if that's where the memory is. So if it's a memory where you were very, very upset, where you were really scared, and the emotions that went along with that data were very high, and now you're experiencing something today. Maybe you're out in the world, you're out at work, and somebody says something that's very similar to that argument. That was 5 years ago, that argument, but it's in there. It's in that subconscious data bank, and the chemical corresponding soup. I just keep calling it chemical soup. I don't know why, but that's what I visualize, like this chemistry floating through our body, because that's what keeps you stressed. So the chemistry of that image is in there, and it gets pulled up. The subconscious goes, this reminds me a lot of that time. So this argument today reminds me of 5 years ago, that other argument, or that other time. Maybe it wasn't even an argument, but I had the experience that no one was listening to me, or somebody was angry with me, whatever it is. This feels a lot like that. So that's what the subconscious is doing. That's its job, is to go through the data bank, find something that seems and feels, it either looks similar, but most of the time it feels similar. That's really the thing, is those emotions, that chemistry feel similar. And it will remember that. It won't necessarily tell your conscious mind, oh, this is just like that time 10 years ago. It won't, but it will put you back in that same place. So I made that be a big time span 10 years ago. But if you look at your life, things like that are happening all the time, and you're relating them to yesterday and the day before, especially when the chemistry of those emotions are so there close to the surface. It's not really, really far back. So today you open up an email and you get some worrisome news, right? And then tomorrow you go into work and you're given some other news about a deadline that you're not prepared for. Right away, the subconscious maps that. When recently did I feel these similar emotions, this same chemistry? And then what happens is that chemistry starts feeding your conscious thoughts. So your subconscious pulls it up out of the data bank and it says, this is a match, this feels similar, or this looks a lot like this other memory. You need to be safe. This is where you felt really threatened in that last time, so now it's threatening now, and it keeps you in that loop. So I'm just going to take a breath for a second. If you're listening, does that make sense to you? Think about when you are stuck in a loop, like the thoughts that go over and over. Why did this happen to me again? This is so hard. How come nobody listens to me? It's all on me. We're not going to be okay. You tend to have the same thoughts and you go through them over and over and over and over. And your physical body is experiencing the emotions, the chemistry that matches up with those thoughts. So again, especially if you're coming in now from the beginning of the conversation, when you experience something that's stressful, your brain interprets the data in the moment. Your conscious brain interprets the data. And the thoughts in that interpretation produce a chemistry in your body, a chemical consequence of your thoughts. That chemical consequence, that chemistry in your body are your emotions. Every emotion has a particular chemical blueprint. That's why they're called the hormones and the chemistry of stress. So now that event also, not only is that chemistry being produced in your body, but that event is making like a picture image in your nervous system. It's like stamped into your nervous system, and it's filed there in your data bank. And we're not thinking about it every day, but your subconscious is constantly, every moment, because that's its job, is to have access to your data bank and to take what's happening now and keep looking for similar. We call it earlier similar emotions or earlier similar mental pictures, your memories. And then to keep you safe, it will say, no, this is just like that. No, don't do that again. No, don't go there. Don't make that choice. Stay safe. So we feel very trapped in either that constant chemical production in our body, and now that is feeding more of the same thoughts. What actually happens is now your brain kind of leaves your frontal lobe, which is reasoning, which is like, wait a minute, this isn't really that big of a deal. Wait a minute. I could actually figure this out if I do this. That happens in the frontal lobe. Your brain leaves the frontal lobe and starts to process things back here in the amygdala, the reptilian brain, the survival brain, whatever you want to call it. It will immediately shift back and start to process there. And now you're like worried and panicky and you stay stuck. Now, when somebody stays there, and that chemistry of the fear, the anger, the sadness, the resentfulness, the anxiety, the grief, the overwhelm, all of those things, each one of them slightly different with its own chemical blueprint. But when that chemistry stays in the body, which keeps the person in the back of their brain rather than up here, now things start to break down in your body. If you stay there long enough, there is no organism on this planet, human beings or any other species, that are meant to live in that place for any length of time. Our whole body system is designed to visit that place when we're really, really threatened and then leave it and go back to normal conscious frontal lobe, body relaxed, clear that chemistry. If you don't clear that chemistry from your body, it keeps producing more of the same chemicals. And so what happens is people are living, starting from the moment they get up, they head out to work in the traffic. They're right there. They're upset. They're stressed. Oh my God, I'm going to be late. What's going to happen? They're thinking about the meeting when they get to work. They're thinking about the argument from last night. They're thinking about what they should have said, or a confrontation with someone later today or next week. So they stay in that place, which keeps the body with a shut down immune system. It keeps the body not digesting food well. It keeps the endocrine system whacking out hormones, and now people have hormonal imbalances. When that stays there for long enough time periods, and people do live their lives there, I did, autoimmune conditions show up because the immune system stops knowing how to protect the body, because it's been turned off while the body's dealing with this, what it thinks is a life-threatening situation every moment of every day. Yes, it's awful. So somebody wrote in, yes, it's awful, but how do you get out of that terrible spot? So it's not one particular thing. There's several things. First of all, you have to teach the body, and when I say first of all, I don't necessarily mean it has to happen in this order. When I work with my clients, we're kind of doing a few of these things at the same time because they each feed the other. But I'll tell you about them one at a time. So teaching the nervous system how to leave that chemistry and those neural pathways and return. The nervous system doesn't remember how to shut off. It's been triggered in the on, fight, or flight for so long, it doesn't remember. So there's a lot of different tools that we use, and then people figure out what's the tool that feels the best for them. Like, I really like this thing more than I like that thing. My body responds to this more than that. So there's different tools that you can do, but you need to teach your nervous system, your physical body, how to leave the fight or flight response. Another thing that you need to do is to look at the thoughts. This is, I'm so overwhelmed. What if this doesn't happen by the deadline? What's he going to say when I get home tonight? Why did my son do that? What's going to happen in politics? So we have to break those neural pathways, those pathways of thinking. And we do that by really also some different practices. It's kind of like, and I just did a recent live on this, so maybe you saw it, but it's kind of like shoveling a new pathway in the snow. It takes some work. You've got to shovel a new pathway and start training new neural pathways of thoughts. Otherwise, the thoughts just automatically go down where they are. But you need to do that. And you also need to teach the body how to leave that reptilian brain and come back to the frontal lobe. And there's ways to do that by focusing on other things. It's like taking a toddler. If you ever had like an 11-month-old or a 14-month-old who can walk and move around, and so they go over here and they start touching things on a shelf, right? In our brain, that's the go over here and be scared and fearful and all that. And you take that toddler and you go, no, no, no. Come back over here. This is where we're going to play. This is what you can touch. And that works for 30 seconds. And then the toddler's right back over where you told them they needed to leave, not to touch that. And you've got to keep leading them back. So for some of these tools, it depends on the person. It's like taking a toddler and continually leading them down another place to look, another place to put their attention. And then another thing that we need to do is to start to get a grip of that subconscious. Because when we are going through our day, what am I going to make for dinner? Am I going to turn right here? We're in our conscious brain. We have no idea that the subconscious, which lives in our body, that's where the emotions reside, in the subconscious, the data bank of all those past experiences, is really running your show. Your subconscious is continually, that's why we get triggered. somebody says something and we're triggered. It's not because of what they said, it's because the subconscious goes, hey, that sounds just like the way my mother used to talk to me when I was in middle school. I don't like when people talk to me like that. I felt belittled back then. I felt like I wasn't good enough, or my teacher, or whomever it was. So the subconscious is constantly doing that. So that's where, and this may be the biggest part. I don't want to say necessarily that's the biggest, but if you don't get a handle on what your subconscious is pulling up as its reference point, that's why you're keeping, like a toddler, you keep having to pull yourself back because you're continually going to the same place. So you've got to get a hold of your GPS system. It's kind of off kilter. That's your subconscious. It's going down the aisles and pulling out reference data memories that are not serving you. And you're believing the truth. It's not the truth, but you're believing your subconscious saying, see, this person also doesn't respect you, or see, this is also a bad situation. Or it might, let me put a different spin on it. Or it might be like, yeah, you should go be with that person because they are just like your dad. Being with them feels like being with your dad. Now, the fact that dad maybe had an anger issue, or that dad was an alcoholic, or he worked all the time, none of that matters. The subconscious just says, this feels like that, so go do that. That feels familiar, right? So that's the opposite. The other examples I was giving were stay away from this. Like, this is fearful, I'm afraid. But what also happens is the subconscious says, this feels really familiar. This is how you felt your whole childhood. That's the guy you should be with, right? Or this job feels like right about your comfort zone, because you have some subconscious memories where maybe you went for something and tried to do something and you didn't succeed. So now the subconscious says, you don't ever want to feel that way again. So stick in this job where it's safe. So the subconscious is constantly, every minute of your day, really running your show, constantly choosing from your data bank and the matching emotions and then matching it up. And that's where you drive your choices from. And you think you just had a thought of, oh, this is right for me. But you did have that thought, but it came from your data bank. It didn't really come from, wait, let's go to like the relationship thing. Wait, this is never home. And I would be with where we spend a lot of time together. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe that's not the right guy for me. You don't have that thought. You go with, oh, this is familiar. That's what the subconscious says. This is familiar. Go be a yes to that, right? So we think our conscious thoughts and our conscious thoughts are driving our choices, but they're not. And that's why it's so difficult. So you've got multiple things to look at. What am I thinking? And rewire that. Get the brain out of stress, fight or flight, back into frontal lobe. You've got the emotions, the chemistry of those thoughts stuck in your emotional body, in your body here as chemistry. So you've got to actively do work to get out of that chemistry and produce different chemical consequences of different emotions. Feeling happy, feeling joyful, being grateful. It's practice. Todd. Hey, Todd, thanks for listening. So because of exactly what you're mentioning right now, I lost almost 10 years and many opportunities in my life. I mean, Todd, I don't know what happened in your life, but I can tell you I did. I can tell you that I missed many opportunities, made decisions that changed the course of my life, all based on my subconscious, all based on memories that I pulled up and decided whether either it felt similar, good, keep myself safe, or stay away from that, that's bad, whatever it was, but it was completely subconsciously driven. And absolutely. Now, you can look at it like, okay, that's a problem. I lost all these opportunities. Or you can look at it like, okay, great. What do I learn from that? Because until my very last breath, as far as I'm concerned, I'm still living. I'm still living and I'm still choosing. So what did I learn from that? That's the opportunity. So yeah, that is what I'm saying. So, and that's really why people feel so stuck, because they have no idea it's their subconscious. They have no idea. And if you follow me at all, and I try to regularly share client experiences or comments that clients either leave me or post on social media, they're like, "Oh my God, my life is totally different." It's not because it's some magical thing, although it is magical. First of all, it's magical to decide to take on your life in a way, and no matter how old you are, I'm going to get different results. That is magical. What we're doing isn't magic, but when you actually like pull back the covers and see what's been, it's like, oh, it's like in The Wizard of Oz, right? When you pull back the curtain and you see the guy who's running the machine, that's your subconscious. And you're like, I thought there was some wizard. I thought there was like an amazing wizard. It's just like this chubby guy back here behind the thing, and he's like pulling the cords. That's your subconscious. When you get that, and when you can see that at work, and it's really easy to see once you start to do the work, then like it's like life goes from black and white to color. You're like, oh, I totally get this now. And now I have a choice. Now, instead of being an automatic response driven by my subconscious, I actually am now choosing from my frontal brain, from choices that are reasonable and make sense. They're not out of fear. They're not out of avoiding the past or matching up to the past. So I feel safe. Now they are choices based on now to create a future that's different. So that's it. Todd, thank you so much for listening. And anybody else, I can see that other people are on. I'll go back and check for any other questions or comments. And I'd love to know if you've ever noticed that in your life, what maybe has been going on where you've felt stuck, or whatever it is you want to comment on. But thank you so much. And I'll see you again this week in one of these. And I'll see you early in the morning when I look a mess and I'm drinking my coffee with you. I'll see you there. Okay? Have a great night.